G'day, guys, and welcome to episode 13 of Bros with Brains with myself, Ben Mayfield Smith, and the big boy, Aaron. How you doing, mate?
Good. I guess I'll say hello to the girls. You just addressed the guys, so whatever.
It's a team effort.
We've already started this podcast off in a sexist way. So we're off to a flying start. Let's do this.
Such a misogynist. Fucking asshole.
Mustache, bro.
Just going back to my 30s, 40s era. That's all. Really embodied.
Anyway, we are kidding. Just that was a joke.
Please don't cancel again.
Don't cancel us. Don't ban us. Well, we've got our first warning from YouTube, so that was exciting.
Yeah. Hey, I'm kind of proud.
Yeah, again, we only got a warning from YouTube just because the swearing apparently was in there, and I don't remember which episode, and I don't remember if the swearing was ever that bad. I think it was actually that diet roundtable we did with Dolts. I was like, I feel like that was the one where we didn't swear that much, but I feel like every other podcast before then we've probably sworn way more.
Fuck it.
But yeah, literally, fuck the fucking fuckers. I don't know, man.
Anyway, hey, we got 12 weeks. So that was impressive.
Yeah,
surprisingly impressive.
We haven't cancelled or been banned yet, so we're good.
Surprisingly, there's been a lot more people agreeing or sharing our opinions as opposed to disputing. So we're either not sharing in the right echo chambers yet, or people are actually being logical and thinking with their head.
That, or we just haven't pissed enough people off yet.
Yes, we need to up our game. This is trash.
Probably the start of this episode pissed enough people off. We'll see.
They won't even listen to the rest. It's just about they heard that. That's it. Fuck off.
Yeah, that's it. Done and dusted.
Yeah, mate. How's training going? How's life? How's
Yeah, good. Dieting down still. Fucking. I think I've lost. Started at 104. Came in at 95 this morning, flat. So
getting into the fun stuff.
Yeah, 9 kilos down, which is disgusting. So hopefully not too much longer before I can start to grow. But knowing Joe, my coach, he will make me keep cutting and, basically cut down to 75 and then grow. No.
Get to the cut and turns out you had no muscle tissue. You grew nothing.
We're just going to cut muscle tissue as well. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Just going back. I'm going back to my Aboriginal genetics and being a stick. Just don't worry about it. But anyway.
At least you can run far again now.
Yeah, well, I can still run now. It's just I don't need to run because I'm big.
I can't even run now. I wish I could say that I could run now, but I can't. That'd be a lie.
I'd probably tear a hamstring. Let's be real. Tear a hamstring as you're going up the stairs, man. Fuck. Yeah. But yeah, training's good. Dieting's starting to suck a little bit, but is what it is. On a 5-2 split, so just 5 days very low cal, and then 2-day refeeds, which is not too bad. It's not so much a refeed, it's more just a higher weekend to chill out a little bit, get a bit of energy left, and back in. So I can
maintenance calories or straight up actual high calories.
Nah, no, not even. It's still low. It's still technically in a deficit. It's just a reintroduction. It's just higher. Well, I guess closer to maintenance than currently. So it's I think I'm in a 40 or probably even a 50% deficit now.
Well, bro, hang on. That's not allowed. That's too extreme.
Yeah. Oh, do you know me? I'm only a man of extremes.
And then can't advise that, mate. That's unhealthy.
And then the higher days kind of a maybe 10 to 20% deficit. So not too bad. It feels like a holiday, even though I know it's not. So
yeah.
That training's good. Just basically trying to survive training more than anything. Not exactly growing in that harsh of a deficit, but just trying to get energy expenditure so I can drop weight faster and start to grow. Pretty much that's about it, bro.
How fast can I rapidly do this so I can get back to not doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to just go 5-day fasts and just fuck it. Just drops 10 kilos in 5 days. Yes, we're ready to grow. Yes.
There's pure glycogen loss. You have no muscle tissue. I don't care. You can eat again.
Pretty much. And then, eats one meal and puts on 10 kilos. But man, I'm feeling good besides that. How about yourself?
No, good. So what are we now? 2 weeks into official business, which has been fantastic. It's been exhausting and tiring and figuring myself out and figuring things out. But it's been, what's the word? All the kinks and hiccups of new business life and trying to figure out when I operate best without someone else's structure or schedule or time frame. And turns out actually having extra hours in your day to do things that, someone else isn't telling you what to do is great.
I do wonder if the listeners just heard you say figuring or fingering, because you just said you're figuring yourself out. So
yeah, that's it. I mean, they're both.
I'm just curious. Yeah, that's what I heard. I mean, maybe I'm really tired and whatever, but I know you meant figuring, but I heard fingering, so whatever. Anyway,
what is it? Por dos no los que.
¿Por qué no les dos? You
Yes,
stupid
por qué no los dos? Why not both?
Anyway, as you were.
Anyway, yeah, so that's good. Yeah, having people ready to go and jumping on board very quickly, putting trust in me was actually pretty humbling. I've definitely appreciated that people were ready to actually just jump straight in. So that was cool. Usually with things like this, you might get, especially sort of having our presence here already, you might get those sort of like hang-offs where they're, people are sort of, let's see what he does first, or let's see what results he gets first, and that sort of jazz. But having a good bunch of clients already ready to go was pretty fantastic. So that meant, recomp, pulled down to just under 104 from 110 about 3 weeks ago. So may actually up calories, to be honest, because it's a bit more aggressive than we had intended for just recomping into a Christmas. So trying to stay above 100 with enough food and supplements. So nothing crazy, but just turns out not stressing and sleeping and not worrying about someone else's business and working on your own is good for the body. Who'd have thought?
That'll change because you will get stressed. Trust me.
But it's my stress.
Take it my stress person that's also self-employed.
Yes, exactly. I'm now licking boots for $20. It's fine. I'll just do it.
Man, $20 is $20, bro. Like, you just got to do what you got to do.
I'm saying that for 5 years. It's nothing to do with the job.
You just ain't doing it right.
Yeah. But no, in saying that, last night, as I was saying to you, got to host my first, co-host my first seminar night, which was pretty awesome. It wasn't a big like, information presentation or anything like that. It wasn't like a full on day. It was just a night for a fit stop that I worked really close with my previous employer, that I've now taken to the leverage of helping for my business.
Of course.
And so it was just something different that I personally don't know of any other fit stop trying it or doing it. So out of that could be a pretty cool experiment, and to see what sort of results can come from it if people do it, sort of implement what we talked about. So it was a seminar on actually understanding and establishing a deeper connection with goals and how an actual goal should be structured. Sort of removing that whole. A lot of coaches I find will not really dig into why the client wants something, or it'll take a very long time to do it. And so one of the issues that we find there, especially like fit stops and stuff like that, where it is a challenge, but it's over a period of time. It's not as personal. It's hard to get to the bottom of why a client wants a goal. So if they have the tools and techniques to do it themselves, when they do come to the coach, chances are it's a bit more specific on what they're after. And it was kind of trying to teach them to understand that, each challenge. So I think fit stops do 4 challenges a year, rather than looking at it as, let's just do it challenge by challenge. It was more about looking at a structure in the year and setting a goal across the whole year of what you want out of your life. What do you want out of the whole 12 months that you're there? Because realistically, fit stop, they're a community. There are great communities that come from it. Like, the training's fun. You do get results if you adhere to it. It's just the degree of intensity you wish to adhere to it, and I guess the type of goal you set. So
yeah, for sure. We
were just sort of talking about how you should start looking the year as your progression and your outcome and your goal, and breaking down the challenges to smaller incremental SMART goals. So rather than just being like, I'm going to do this 6-week challenge and that's it, it's more, how does this 6-week challenge get me closer to the overall goal I want for the year? So it was a cool experience. We had people download the book pretty much instantly after the chat. So that was cool. First time having people hang back and talk to me to pick my head about something that I'm sort of like the person that was brought in to talk about it. So that was a pretty cool experience.
It's always it's an interesting thing. The first time you start to present and people start asking you questions, and then, the first 1 or 2, you usually you start getting a little bit nervous and you start questioning yourself. And then as the questions keep rolling in, you're like, oh yeah, no, I know my stuff. I'm good.
Yeah.
No, we're going to be all right here. We got this.
It was like, it reminded me of, what's the word? When I jumped out of a plane on a skydive, the anxiety and the fear going up the plane was far worse than actually jumping out. Once I was in the moment, I was just like, sweet, this is what I'm talking about. I know this. I don't know why I was fearing this, but it's like, as I'm sort of getting ready to talk, I was like, don't fuck up, don't say the wrong thing. Like, what are you going to say? I was like, hang on, you're the person in this room that knows the most about this. No one else in this room knows this like you do. Otherwise, they'd be talking. So 100%. It was just like, and that's not even to say I'm an expert at it. It's just more so that this is what I specialize in. This is what
it's what you're versed in. So it makes the most sense.
Where my time goes. So other people, one of them said that he's a DJ and he doesn't know much about goal setting and stuff. I'm like, cool. So no one's here to really challenge me or question it. It was just in my own head. I'm like, who's the competition out there? Who's the who's the person I'm up against, or who's going to question me? And I was like, wait, no one. The questions were more like, what does this mean? Or like, what is this? As opposed to you're wrong. So yeah, it was a cool experience to sort of get started. I mean, I'd set my own goal to have done that. But it wasn't going to be until at least I finished uni. Like the real plan was sort of finish uni and start doing this out after that to have Matter sort of established. So to take the leap of quitting a previous job and just fucking say, screw it, let's do it. Like I've got the opportunity. The opportunity is met with preparation and that gives me the outcome. So yeah, it was a cool experience that I'll definitely learn from and keep doing again for sure.
Yeah, man, it sounds good. Hopefully it gets a good response and, clients start to understand that it is a bit deeper when it goes into like wanting to set a goal. More so, it's probably even, I wonder if it'd be even more deeper for the Gen Pop versus the athletic minded, in that the athlete type mentality would suggest that they're sort of more aware of the goal, more aware of the repercussions that can lead into that. Obviously, the isolation of their own life and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Versus Gen Pop, where it's like they see the shiny thing, but they don't know everything else that goes into this shiny thing. So it's like they don't understand, to potentially do this, you may need to sacrifice this. Whereas like the more athlete type mindset would be like, this is what I want, and I am willing to sacrifice because I know I'm probably going to need to. I don't want to, but I'll have to. And if I do, then that's fine.
Yeah, and that's the thing I found too, is that a lot of them are like, no goal is right or wrong in the way I've sort of experienced it and read it and understood it. It's just that a lot of the time when you get to Gen Pop, even new clients, they very rarely set a goal that's actually in line with them and who they are. They just sort of set a goal that based on what they think they should want. Like, I should want to be leaner, or I should want to lose 5 kilos, or this summer I want to get leaner to go to the beach, so I should lose 10 kilos. And they pick these arbitrary, like sort of surface level goals. And then you sort of start getting into it with them and they realize to get these things, A, it's actually a little bit deeper than that. And B, they have to actually start giving up things and setting boundaries and setting responsibilities for themselves and structures and schedules and daily checklists. And it's like, cool, you didn't know all of this comes with it. So, whereas an athlete, like you said, an athlete's pretty more common with, usually across life, you probably find that athletes have already established most of those backgrounds or knowledges that that's what it takes to do it. And we've got routines set up and we've got habits set up and we've got checklists and generally like a goal of where we're trying to get to. So yeah, for Gen Pop, especially coming to like a new, if you haven't done a Fit Stop challenge or something like that before, and you just sort of like, what's a good goal? 5 kilos is a cool goal. I'll want to feel like I did when I was 25 and you're 40 and you've had 2 kids. Obviously that's not a good goal, but it's not wrong. It's just, we can make it better.
Yeah, for sure. That makes complete sense, Ben. So what is it that we're going into today? What do you want to talk about? What makes you happy?
Well, you see, one of the
how long do you have?
Crackety crack. Instagram's been at work the last few weeks. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I was thinking like rather than reacting to things that have been on Instagram, I was more so thinking
it's more fun.
I know it is more fun. It's a lot more fun. I've been sent James Smith stuff like the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm just like, it can't always be him.
But it always is. No.
But it always is.
People need to stop following him. That's the problem.
Yeah. Why do we give such retards such like depth of exposure? It hurts me. It hurts my very soul.
I know, like Instagram will ban a whole stack of people, but they won't ban those that they probably need to ban, like him. But anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? But then it's like, whose opinion do we ban him on? Well, people who are smart, people who know that he's retarded, and that
people know he's just a very unique, a special individual.
Yeah. Yes. But no, what I was thinking of talking about was getting into around a bit more stuff to do with training and stuff. We usually talk banter and shit about our own training, but with a lot more newer clients coming on board and things like that, and new listeners and stuff, we've been getting messages from getting to a bit more depth around programming, training, volume, modalities, things like that. That'll be a good place to dive into and start expressing for the listeners.
Sounds good. Basically, train to failure every set, every exercise. Do not worry about safety. And that's it. You're going to grow. You're either going to die or grow. So it's like, they say get rich or die trying. It's just get swole or die trying.
We don't care about technical or mechanical failure. Don't care your formats while you do it.
Fail. Just fail.
Just fail.
You're under a squat. We want you to crumble up and die. That's it.
And we are kidding. Don't actually go do that.
And then the following week, you do it again with more weight.
Someone has
progressive overload.
Someone's just stopped the chat right here and gone, fuck it, I'm going to train to failure. Balls to walls.
This is going to be the next Blood and Guts podcast. We're going to inspire you to train.
It's got to be that branch Warren in Generation I, where he's in front of the mirror and the cameraman's there. It's only done 2 reps, like, you're out of the way. Then just drops it anyway. And it's like, bro.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. I mean, but that's how this is going to go now. Anyway.
Fuck it the fuck up and do it.
Pretty much. The weight ain't going to lift itself.
But yeah, so like one of the, I guess to preempt it, one of the things I found taking on you guys, a lot of the guys I've got or have worked with, have kind of done a lot of preemptive coaching themselves, or sort of like they're like just sort of coaching themselves really, based on previous knowledge or stuff they learned. It's not right or wrong. And it's a kind of a mixture of misinterpreting frequency and volume and misinterpreting training to feel. So a lot of guys just kind of like, and I dare say they represent more of the greater population than someone who's more, I guess, data tracking back like us. So it kind of makes sense to dive into, but around the idea, like even as a novice or a very early beginner, their frequency of volume and the amount of volume is just sky high based on the premise of the more I do for that target muscle group, obviously that should stimulate more, that should signal more hypertrophy and stimulate more growth because I'm working that muscle harder or more often. Therefore, I should get a faster or better response. And sort of conversing with them about that, it became aware to me that they weren't aware of backing off and why we actually don't start with that higher volume and why we need to build a base of where to work from. And then as the PR guys sort of have, as we know, you sort of at least start with a working template of a base recovery volume or base minimal effective volume.
Yeah. So I guess how in depth do we want to go with this? We can go really crazy. This is sort of my field. So
yeah, I know that you enjoyed
we can do this or we can do this. Nah.
Aaron had about 3 choke wanks before we started this chat just to calm himself down. He was so excited.
Pretty much. Like it really depends on like how in depth you want to do this. So we have these 2 camps, these 2 sides of a coin. We have if we have volume on one side and we have intensity on the other, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if we want to take it to base biology and physiology, like what builds skeletal muscle, which is the muscle, obviously the beach muscles or the muscles that you actually visually see, not anything internal, like, the wall of your heart. Even though this does build that, this isn't what we're trying to target. There's no exercise you can do that actually targets the wall of your heart. And if there is, let me know, because you don't want to do that.
Do cocaine.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, bad for your heart, so don't do that.
Good for increasing heart palpitations.
Great pre-workout, just don't do it all the time. No. And then what happens is we have these guys that do all this volume, right? And everyone's heard the term junk volume. There's a reason that term has sort of come out in that there is a lot of volume that is not in creating a stimulus. What we need to do is we need to train to an intensity that basically gives us a stimulus or gives the body a stimulus to adapt to and change. That's kind of how it works, right? Mm-hmm. Now, with that, when we look at a set, the research would suggest and show that sets taken closest to failure is where we get that adaptive stimulus. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is also we accrue fatigue. Mm-hmm. So obviously, the closer you go to failure, the more tired you get. Like, no shit, that makes logical sense, right?
Yeah, I'm about to fail. I'm going to keep working to fail. Oh, it turns out I'm tired from failing.
Right. The thing is here, we have a few different fatigues. We have like CNS fatigue and we have peripheral fatigue. So basically fatigue that's in the set where you're blowing, you can't get your breath back, your arms are sore, or like you're doing a bicep curl, your arm starts to cramp and all that sort of stuff. And then you have central nervous fatigue where basically you get irritated, you don't sleep well, you stop growing like effectively because of the fatigue interference that you're having and all this other stuff that occurs, which is what we're trying to avoid. Okay. So what we need to do is basically focus on the reps that will give us that stimulus to adapt. Now, if you do 5 sets of 10 reps, out of that 50 reps, how many of those are going to be effective reps, which is another model or, another term that's been thrown around. The effective reps being those reps closest to failure to cause an adaptation. We see people doing, 6 sets of 10, 7 sets of 10, and it's kind of like, unless you're doing a specialization block where that can have its application because those sets are taken to failure and that that adaptive response is occurring. 9 times out of 10, it's not needed. You can get away with 2 to 3 sets, provided one, you're in that rep range of about, I've seen like 6 to 10, 8 to 12. I would, as a general rule, probably just go like 8 to 15 or 6 to 15, just to be that's very generic. Like that's not very specific.
I generally find I keep most people within that 8 to 12, especially. I find you can put, they feel that intensity enough, but also like you're closest to failure with a weight.
Yeah. And it's not to say some muscles don't, sort of work or benefit from a higher rep range, like a 20 rep range. And sometimes workouts do work nicely at 20 reps. Like, don't get me wrong. You do obviously want to vary that, but as long as they all have the one thing in common, and they're taken close to failure. When we look at close to failure, we're looking at, again, the research would suggest like 5 RIR or 4 RIR max, and then down to like failure. So 4 RIR being how many reps left you have in reserve. So you have 4 reps left in reserve, or you're 4 reps shy of failure. That's not RPE, people. Some people think it is. It's fucking not. Stop confusing the two. I know it's not your fault, but majority of coaches are using RPE and RIR basically interchangeably, when traditionally RPE was basically based on how you feel for the set or for the workout, not the actual amount of work you're doing in that set. So anyway, I just hate that. I did a post on it, got a lot of feedback on it. So basically we were trying to work as close as we can to failure, right? Now imagine an advanced trainer or an advanced trainee, having to stimulate muscle growth. You think they're going to get 4 or 3 reps shy of failure and be able to stimulate growth when they're at the upper end of their, effectively at the upper end of their growth? No, it can't. It won't happen. There's a higher chance that they need to train to failure to actually get that minimum stimulus of growth, right? So this is where the whole volume argument sort of falls down, because no point doing 5 sets of 10 when you could have done 2 or 3 sets of 10 and taken it closer to failure, because once that fatigue catches up, those extra sets just become shit, and they actually end up affecting the next exercise. It's like, what's the point of doing this extra volume when that volume is not going to get us anything, because we've now fatigued basically all fibers and pathways. So there's another rule that we have in physiology, and it's a law of recruitment. So effectively, let's say you have what we call higher threshold motor units. You can't basically turn on the highest threshold motor unit without turning on the lowest ones. Right. And you only turn on the high ones the closer you get to failure. But you need to turn on, like, let's say if it's a scale of 10, you need to turn on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 first.
Yes.
Now, in the first set, or like your warm-up sets, you might go 1, 2 in the first warm-up set. The second warm-up set, you might get 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. And then on your working set, you're like, all right, I've got maybe 8 out of the 10 fibers ready to go. You do that working set and you might get 10 out of 10, right? On that back off set, there's a good chance, or that, in the next working set, there's a good chance that you're probably not going to recruit as many again, only because now we have fatigue accumulated. Not to say that you won't, you still can. It's just everyone's a bit different. It's kind of like the general rule. Yeah. So now that we've got all fibers firing, we have this thing where we have fatigue catching up, and fatigue is going to be the limiting factor. Again, why you don't need to do that many sets. So when we look at the research, and the research suggests like 80 to 120 sets for a fucking hypertrophy, man, stay on the 80 set range. And then honestly, just fucking train intensely, train with some intent, like train like your life sort of depended on it, on some exercises. Because when we can look at safety of exercise and obviously and all that sort of stuff, like free weights, we don't want to take too close to failure if it's going to be deemed unsafe, like a barbell squat or an RDL or a deadlift, like the bench press. Like, these are the things we don't want to go that close to failure, because there's a higher risk of injury. However, you jump on like a hammer strength incline press, you set upright, you can take it as close to failure as you like, because the only thing that's going to happen is you just can't press it. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is understanding. I think a lot of I guess novice, even to intermediate, is experiencing true failure and realizing it's safe. Like, you sort of tell people to go out and crush themselves in the real world, and that's obviously a bad thing. But when we get the chance to say, hey, look, in the gym, we want you training this close and this intensely to failure for a reason,
get under the bar and experience it and see that you're still going to live. Because that's the thing where I think the fear kicks in and sort of people like they hold themselves back subconsciously. It's not a conscious effort. I think it's a very subconscious thing out of a survival mechanism that you don't want to fucking die. So you're doing, the body is going to fight you against doing things that it's unsure of. When you sort of expose yourself, like exposure therapy in whether we're treating anxiety or something like that, or phobias, exposure therapy, just like in this instance, getting under the bar or getting under the machine and getting into the weight and seeing that failure isn't going to hurt you to the degree you think it is. It's going to hurt in the sense of like an acute stimulus. Like you're going to feel pumped, your muscles are going to be tearing, you're going to feel sore and broken down, but that's a response we kind of want. That's what you're going for. But in the sense of say like breaking your arm or something like that, you have to be doing something severely wrong to really just instantly tear a muscle and break an arm or break a limb. And as a result of training to failure, get into a machine that's set up generally with a safety mechanism involved as well. Like the leg press usually will have the latch that prevents it from coming all the way back. Yeah, you might feel it come back on you and you simply can't press any further. You can probably roll yourself out and not have done any damage.
Yeah, of course. You need to be obviously smart with the exercise selection that you go to failure with. It's like, you might not go to failure on a hack squat or a leg press for, pure safety reasons. Again, I won't argue that makes sense, but hold on, you have a leg extension that you can go to failure on and still exactly pump out of your quads, you know what I mean? And that's probably going to hurt more than going to failure on a leg press. Anyone that's done, leg extensions to failure knows like getting off that machine, you're just not walking for a while, which, with off a leg press, you get sore, but you can still walk. So the other thing that we do have to consider here is with those exercises that are deemed, I guess, a little bit less safe, like your free weight movements and stuff like that, you don't necessarily need to train to, I guess, failure or even 1 to 2 RIR, even though I suggest that you do, provided that you can, if you have spots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can simply look at bar speed, look at the velocity of the bar. If the bar slows down towards the back end of your reps, there's a good chance you're in that sort of ballpark figure of, 1 to 4 RIR, right? If by the end of your set, if you've recorded it, taken a look at it, and your first rep and your last rep is the exact same speed, put more weight on it or do more reps. Take your pick. So then you can base that off. If you've done 15 reps and first and 15th look the same, put more weight on. If you did, 1 to 10, you can probably do more reps. Get to that 15 rep mark. And I sort of suggest that get to that 15 rep mark of the exercise. If you're getting, first and 15th rep look the same, add more weight. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, it's just sort of a general rule that I use.
And that's not a bad, notion for understanding linear progression as well. Is that, people just think week to week, you got to add volume or you got to add weight straight away. But you also have to account for the fact that intensity matters, form matters, range of motion matters. So before just simply throwing up weight, just to throw up the weight and increase, this is where we get sort of like bro and ego lifts. It's more important to look at how's the intensity of this set, how's my form of this set, and how's our range of motion of this set. Am I hitting the depth I need? Am I contracting in the right places? Am I holding that form across all the lifts? Does the form break down when I go to increase? So I would rather, I don't know about you, but personally, I would rather having a client who's experiencing new working blocks or different volumes methods get form correct before worrying about increasing weight, purely to make sure that when the weight does go up, they're still recruiting properly and effectively.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, the debate with like range of motion and stuff like that. I've had a few debates about it. And obviously standardizing technique. So first and foremost, you do want to standardize the technique. So hopefully that standardizes the rep and the rep cadence or the rep speed. So that way, that, you have something that you can measure against. If every rep is different speeds, then how do you know that you're progressing properly? It's not just weight and, reps and sets. It's the actual rep itself and how it looks. If you do like a 3-second eccentric every rep and, come up as fast as you can each time, and let's say a 1-second pause at the top, if you do that every single rep, you can then go by the actual concentric speed. Let's use a hack squat, for example, and say, okay, we're going 3 seconds down. And let's say on the first two, let's say the first rep is 1 second up, the next rep is still 1 second up, but the 15th rep is 4 seconds up. Yeah. You're like, okay, but it was the exact same speed on the way down, exactly one second at the top to wait for that next rep to start. Like, that speed of concentric is going to be the measurable thing. And you're like, okay, I know where I am proximity to failure or give or take, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're going at all these different speeds, like people that squat and they just drop, it's kind of like, well, hold on. One, we're using the stretch reflex. So it's a completely different form of energy effectively. Mm-hmm. And we're not using or targeting the muscles, especially if we're looking at hypertrophy. So there are all these other little intricacies that we need to look at. So there's that side of, looking at bar speed and, looking at speed of rep and quality of rep. But then we look at range of motion. It's like, what is range of motion? It's literally just the angle of your moment arm effectively. Really, that's what we're doing. We're just looking at, you're taking something from point A to point B and you're measuring that angle. That's kind of like cool. Like everyone's range of motion though is different. Like for example, you and me have different ranges of motion. I've probably got longer arms than you. So when I do a bench press, for example, my active range of motion, because then we move into active and passive ranges of motion, right? So it's like active range of motion for me is not going to be the same as you. Mm-hmm. My bar may not need to touch my chest for me to stay in active range of motion. However, you may need to touch your chest because you got shorter arms. Neither is right or wrong. It's just that's our active ranges of motion where we're going to get the most out of our pecs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then because as soon as you move into passive range is when we're using a weight to assist us into a movement. That's when we start to play with safety issues or potentially safety issues. Not always, but most of the time. So that's my sort of gripe with range of motion, in that if you can get there by yourself, you're in active range of motion. If you need to get there with assistance, whether that be a weight, whether that be someone, doing like P and F stretching, someone pushing you past your normal range, then it's probably deemed a tad more dangerous in terms of being in the gym.
Yeah. No, I get you. So I guess,
as you can see, this is my field. Like, let's go. I haven't even had coffee, people.
Which is, this is what I thought it'd be exciting to talk about. So then I guess going back to the sort of basic example of like building from a base program in terms of training and volume, getting clients to understand why we're tailoring back. So a lot of my guys at the moment are, I would still say, in the intermediate to very novice aspect in terms of actually following a structured program. So what we look at doing is, I guess, depends on where you sit in the camp. There's always camps. I'm so sick of camps, but like take what works for you and what you think is applicable and make it your approach. Just stop being buried in one or the other. We've talked about it like 3 times, but
exactly. Just train to failure and stop being bitches. God.
Is getting to that, so what is called minimum effective volume. So that minimum effective volume essentially is, in the way I understand it and perceive it, is that it's the minimal amount of volume required to stimulate growth and hypertrophy, but also that does require effective lifting and effective range of motion.
So the other side to minimum effective volume is exactly what you just said. It's volume it's the least amount of volume that causes an adaptation that you're trying to achieve while still being able to recover from it. So that's the other side to it. You need to be able to recover from that volume. Yeah. That's how it's minimum effective, right? And then you have maximum effective is literally like the most you can do with still being able to recover and repeat the following week or mesocycle or whatever it is without accumulating fatigue or too much fatigue. And then obviously when you tip over, then, you're outside the minimum and maximum effective volumes. Minimum effective volume is interesting in that, again, like we say, everybody's different. So everyone's going to have different abilities. What people probably don't discuss is that effective volume changes based on fitness and health status as well. So the healthier you get, the higher your minimum effective volume gets. And obviously the more unhealthy you are, the less volume you're going to be able to handle. So having someone that's relatively healthy, first and foremost, is going to be a very big factor to how we do this. There is no formula to do it. What we use is that 80 sets minimum side per week, and then splitting that up over the body parts. And it's how everyone's a little bit different how they split up body parts, but usually it's like chest, back, shoulders, like 3 different body parts there. Bis and tris I include together, but some people separate them. It doesn't really make a difference. And then I work
in 5 to 8 set ranges for both. Enough anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you have quad, ham, glute, calf. Pretty straightforward. And, people can mix and match them. Like some people mix calves, bis and tris. Like that's fine. It just means that they're still getting the same. Well, if you're doing the 5 to 8 sets or whatever it is, or, the minimum of 8 sets per body part, they're still getting the same volume. So it doesn't make that much of a difference. But yeah, I mean, that's where I tend to start it. I think all my guys and girls are on effectively 80 to 85 sets. I've got a couple that go a little bit higher, my more intermediate to advanced, that have specialization blocks in place where I like to ramp up sets. For that particular body part, that is, to really, really take advantage of those motor units and basically fuck them up.
I think that's important too. Is understanding that getting less volume doesn't mean you're not getting a good program. In the sense that having less volume, when in conjunction with what we're talking about before, with getting effective rep ranges and higher intensity, you're still going to get an effective stimulus. So chances are, like if you say I just cut you straight back to minimum effective volume based on your previous training history, that intensity might not be that high. That's why I sort of like to let someone experience how they might feel in that week. Then we go, right, now let's fuck it up. Now let's take you to pure failure, see what it actually looks like and feels like. So you've had a set now where you know how I want you to train versus how you were training. Now you understand the intensity of when I say 2 to 3 reps in reserve or 3 to 4 reps in reserve, that's 3 to 4 reps short of you feeling like dying. So now we know, cool, this is the difference in intensity we want, so that you don't have to spend 2 hours in the gym. You don't have to waste the body, and you don't have to waste joints. You don't have to waste muscle tissue, and you don't have to waste recruitment on shitty volume that you don't need to do. You can still get the same result from a 45 to an hour session and be effective at training, be efficient at training. And then we can later down the track, as you get from that novice to intermediate or intermediate to advanced, you can start look at specialty blocks and increasing sets and reps, not just weight.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's funny. It's like when we look at sort of the whole minimum effective volume thing, it's kind of like, well, like I said, the healthier you get, but then if you're in a diet, your minimum effective volume changes because you're in an energy deficit. So again, like these things come into play. So it's like not even just looking at the health status, looking at your current goal or whatever it is that you're doing. So it's like, for me personally, my minimum effective volume right now is much lower than what it is being in a surplus.
Yeah, of course. So, and you kind of want to understand that, like for a very simple explanation of that, obviously, is that your body doesn't have the nutrients of food coming in to replenish and rebuild and repair muscle tissue or the body in general. So it's going to prioritize obviously where that nutrients go, and you're not always going to be able to build new tissue because you're in a deficit. The food just isn't coming in. You're trying to take away energy, not put it on. So it makes sense that obviously the effective amount that you can recover and rebuild to train that same muscle again isn't going to be as high, is going to be lower than what it is when you've got food and energy available to use, right?
And when we say this as well, when we look at the effective volume, I may not be stimulating enough. I may not have enough energy to stimulate enough fiber to cause the most optimal adaptation, but it's not to say that I'm not causing an adaptation, because I still am. It just means I have less energy going into my workouts. So it would mean that I wouldn't even be able to last through more volume, which means my minimum effective would drop. Because there could be an argument to say that minimum effective would be higher because you need to probably do more work because you're in an energy deficit to recruit more fiber, but that's not what I'm saying. It's you're in an energy deficit, so it makes it a bit harder in that aspect. But then also when we look at progressive models for like when we're looking at sets and that sort of stuff and like week to week programming and all that, you can put a progression scheme in place. It's just based on, obviously, like we said, if the person's in a deficit, maintenance, growth phase. Maintenance, growth phases are probably ideal. Maintenance, you could probably do a bit of a recomp, and even in a growth phase, you could probably get away with a bit of a recomp at the start. But then if we have like a 4-week block, you can start at like 3 RIR. And then you can go to 2 RIR in the second week, 1 RIR in the third week. And in that fourth week, you can go, hey, let's go to failure and beyond. That you can start introducing things like rest pause sets, cluster sets to, try and get past that fatigue part and it basically prolong sets. So they're just set intensifiers, which my favorite is always rest pause. I don't like drop sets. I don't like this sort of stuff. It just takes too much time if you don't have training partners. So we have these other options to also then put in a progressive overload model with keeping inside, the RIR ranges that we need to stimulate growth.
When do you think is the right time to introduce clients to intensifiers? Like obviously we want them working in effective ranges and we want them to get used to structured programming, tiered periodization and stuff like that. But is it cool just to throw it in for like a novice trainer who's barely even like trained? They're not even really trained effectively yet to their proper rep ranges? Or do you think like that's a safe technique for more advanced lifters?
Yeah, that's always going to be in context. And as the famous saying goes, it depends. No, it's more so, I guess, if you're doing straight sets,
just trust
reps, me, pretty much follow the process. No, when we're doing like straight sets and stuff like that, if your client is still getting results, so let's say you're looking to grow and they're growing at, I don't know, half a kilo per week or whatever it is that you're trying to forecast. If they're doing that, then don't change it. Like the funny thing is that like a lot of coaches always think they need to change things every bloody week. And the good coaches know if you don't change anything for 4 weeks, you've done your job. Like, like it's very rare that that'll happen, but it does happen. Like I've got clients where I haven't touched their nutrition, for example, for 4 or 5 weeks because they might be in a deficit, and we've basically hit the right deficit, from week 1, and it's just skied down. It's like, cool. Yeah. I don't need to change anything. Like, I'm sorry, I want to give you more, but I got it right from the start. So
I can't help it. I nailed it, right?
I can't help it. I got it right. Like, my bad. So
I'm not saying I'm God, but
yeah, I mean, look, there was this one time at this one thing, like, it was thrown around.
The water did part when I went to walk through it. It was the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, there was this guy, I was following him. He was walking on water. So was I. I didn't realize, but whatever. There's these things that happen, and it does happen by chance. Sometimes it's calculated, and, you nail it right on the dot.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. So I wouldn't bring in rep intensifiers and stuff like that unless it's needed, and if there's a reason for it. So like I wouldn't use a rep intensifier, for example, in a cut.
Yeah.
If the person likes to train like a psycho, like kind of like me, so do as I say, not as I do. Like I like rep intensifiers always. Cut, maintenance, growth. Like I don't care. My coach hates me for it because it just makes me get tired really fast, but that's just how I am. I'm working on it. I'm sorry. But for people in a growth phase, for example, you can get away with that because they have more energy coming in so that they can recover faster.
Yes.
That's the whole point of it. You need to be able to recover from it.
Which is kind of why I don't like the idea of nutrition and programming being separate coaches.
Yep, I agree.
Me personally, I just don't like the idea of it. Like, yeah, it's great. You can have the world's best nutritionists, but if they're not in conjunction with your coach or your programmer, or the two aren't working very synergistically, it's kind of like there's almost lag or delay or buffer between the two. Like it's I feel much more beneficial if your coach understands nutrition and training, but also having the one person look over it, maybe getting eyes from like, if as a coach, you might get some eyes from somewhere else. Like I'll have no dramas coming to you or adult, even Tavi, and just being like, look, this is what I'm thinking. This is what's happened. This is where I'm sort of like looking at taking it. What do you think? But at the same time, I'm not saying, hey, like you do the nutrition, I'm doing the programming, because understanding where you want their food to be or understanding how their food should be in line with how you're picturing their programming, their planning, it just doesn't add up for me.
And I can guarantee Dalton will have the same experience as I do when it comes to nutrition only clients, that because I can't control or have less control over their output, mainly in the gym, I find that I'm feeding them less. And I don't want to. I want to feed them more. The clients that I get on, when I get to control all facets, we get fucking mad results just because I'm controlling their output more as well as their input. So, I don't take on nutrition only clients anymore. Like I've sort of stopped, only if it's someone that I'm friends with, or that I know that their coach pushes them. Yeah. There's a lot of coaches that just do not, I guess more coming from a powerlifting background, there's so many coaches that just do not want to push, especially on the accessories, and understanding that, this is how we build muscle. There are some, don't get me wrong, there are some good ones. Mm-hmm. Majority of them are shit. Sorry. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. Fucking up your game. If you're a powerlifting coach and you get angry at that, up your game, because they keep coming to me and it's doing my head in. This is why though. It's just like, again, we can get to the whole argument of off season and on season, but
that's another podcast.
We won't do that again. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, if I can control your output, if I can understand that you're training the way I want you to train, and I know that what result that's going to yield or potentially yield, I can then match the nutrition accordingly. Oh, look, we get fucking results.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And this comes then, I guess, in conjunction with the understanding of the pairing of why we like data, because in the sense that understanding how much you're eating, how your body's responding to what you're eating, and how also you're training and what volume you're training at, and I guess the numbers you're lifting, allows us to make a lot better informed or more informed decisions. Like I've got a few people I've spoke to that simply, and there's nothing wrong with it, but they train to feel in the gym, especially as like novice kind of guys. Like they just go in and like, it's chest day. So it might end up being 20 sets in that whole workout over 6 or 7 exercises or whatever it is. And it might be just a whole bunch of like extra flies. It might be a whole bunch of extra presses. And it's like, we're not sure of exactly how much you're doing, how consistently you're overloading that. Do I put you in a surplus whilst you're also under and over and moderately training across different days, because we don't know exactly how effective those sessions are. So to me, that's where the importance of understanding data in all aspects plays a large role, because then we can understand just how much you're actually doing in that session, how much your body's responding to those sessions, what your weight is doing, what your food is doing with those sessions. So if you go through a cut or you're going through a surplus and you're noticing that strength's declining, probably you're looking at, should I be increasing food, or do I need more carbohydrates, or am I sleeping poorly or something like that? Because in a surplus, I should be getting stronger, I should be progressively overloading, and I should be still having the energy to keep my form up. So when we have that data and understanding your volume metrics, it makes a lot more sense, or I guess it's more understandable for us to manipulate things.
Yeah, no, cool. I completely agree. And I think a lot of people still need to understand that volume is such a loose term, as well as intensity, to be honest. Yeah. I don't like using the word volume overly much, because a lot of people think, oh, like it's a lot, like, you know, a lot of weight moved or whatever it is per set or per workout. And it's kind of like, nah, like for me, if I mention the word volume, it's usually like in terms of minimal sets. So, and intensity as well is very loose. I prefer the word effort, to be honest, when it comes to talking about an actual set and taking it to like a 2 RIR. Requires effort, not so much intensity, because you can be intense but still fucking fuck that shit up, right?
Yeah.
But you can't really fuck up effort. So it's like, you know, put the effort in and see where you're at.
Yeah, I like that. I like the expression, just focus on one thing and do it really well.
Yeah.
Just like one of the things that I found, especially coming to the end of my time with my previous employer, was I was so distant in my training, or like absent-minded. That perception of stress and failure and fatigue was actually a lot higher, because I wasn't focused on the lift itself. I was more so everywhere. And so I just felt more exhausted. The body was just tired. My brain was just like mush. And so my motivation was low as well. So my intensity, whilst it was still high, I guess, in comparison to a lot of people, it wasn't optimal for me or where I wanted to be. Sets become a little bit longer, rests become a little bit longer, weight lifted becomes a little bit less or a little more inconsistent. So in saying that, it's like you get to control a bit more, basically. Like you get to be, I like to be, one of the things I tell myself now is right before I lift is on this set or just this set. And that's trying to like trigger myself in the head to simply focus on this set at this time and this rep range. And then obviously that allows to increase intensity and effort of that set. And then I replicate that every single time, and that accrues to a good session.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. You know, focusing on the minimal and on minimal things makes the workout probably a little bit more fun too. So you don't have to sort of focus on so much, you know, just dial your shit in, get it ready for your working sets, execute your working sets and move on.
It's I guess one of the negative potentials of knowing your data set for that program is like some people in the back of their mind might try and save themselves for an exercise or something like that. So for me, it's also understanding that though we are tracking data, there is a reason why there's some sort of layout to the program where we want you to like max effort is here for this reason. Well, obviously effort and fatigue will kick in at the back. So it's why we're picking exercises that are less fatiguing, but can still accrue stimulus. So trying to save yourself for a back end of your session or something like that isn't what we're trying to do. So
no, well, the idea would be that, I mean, everyone's a little bit different, right? But like personally for me, it's like if I'm in a growth phase, I'm trying to progress every exercise. It's like, I know that I'm probably not going to in that workout because obviously fatigue is going to catch up. But hey, there are times when you go in and you feel great and you actually fucking, you know, put in a bit of extra work on every exercise and you're like, shit, if I hadn't had that mentality, would I have done that? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
But like you said, we do have these exercises that we can use as our markers for, you know, actually progressing whatever it is that we needed to progress. And most of the time it's compound exercises that we choose, unless you're, you know, specifically growing a body part where like if you're growing your quads, for example, you may not use your hack squat as the exercise to monitor, you know, progression. You just may use a leg extension. But the leg extension, even though it may not be first in your exercise selection or even second, wherever it falls in your exercise selection, still that's where it is that you're going to go with. And because maybe you've done a little bit of pre-exhaustion doing the other exercises, that's where you're going to sort of mark out, okay, this is my marker of progression for each week and for each session of this particular leg session. This is what I'm going to do. As long as I can progress on here and it's the same exercise selection, it's the same order. So you're always coming to it, let's say third or fourth.
Yeah.
and you're progressing on it, there's a good chance you're still progressing through the rest of your exercise, the rest of your block. So for the legs days. Yeah.
All right. So I guess in saying that would be wrapping up training volume and intensity. Train to near failure.
Yes.
Work based off minimum effective volume. Don't jump straight to the higher end. That was kind of the whole premise of the conversation, is that if you aren't coming to us for coaching and you're simply listening to learn stuff yourself, start with less, because less is more, and build upwards. I would how often you end up stripping away unused parts of a car and stuff like that to make it more efficient. Start with less, build up. Don't throw everything in and then hope for the best. So train closer to failure than you are thinking you're training. Chances are subconsciously you're not training that close to failure. You may feel like you are, but you're probably not. Like when you actually get into your head, like, am I actually taking this to 2 to 3 reps away from like where my fucking end is? Yeah, probably not. And pick effective volume.
Man, if you really want to make it like as simple as possible, like split up your body parts. So you have like back, chest, shoulders. Let's go bicep, tricep, quads, hamstrings, glutes, right? And we can throw calves in there for fun because no one's got calves. So you've got, 8 effective, we'll call body parts. You do 10 sets on each one. There's your 80 sets.
Yep.
And when we say 10 sets, it's across the week. So you split them up. Yeah. And then, you can adjust our reps accordingly based on whether it's a compound or whether it's an isolation. It's like, that's your crux of a workout. Like it's done. And then all you need to do is add sets where you feel you want to grow. Or you can, add intensity on those particular body parts and try to progress them more while keeping everything else on maintenance. So if that's your maintenance volume, like that's another option.
Yeah. And I guess the other sort of minute detail is structuring the program to your ability to train. So if I put a 6-day program and you can only get to the set gym 4 days a week, there's no point. So we're going to have to obviously shorten that volume to the days you can train, but that will also mean the chances are your session may be a little bit longer. So make sure you're eating for that, make sure you're sleeping for that, make sure you're hydrated for that, because you may require a little bit more or extra energy in those sessions. But the idea is we're still hitting that total volume for the week. It's just adjusting to, I guess, some of my clients at the moment might only have 4 days. Some of them have 5 or 6 because they get fun out of being in the gym. I would rather not be at the gym so often, but in that fun, it means we can space out some programs, do some extra pump exercises, but also hit their total volume and sort of just enjoy being there for 45 minutes instead of 2 or 3 hours. The other people, they can only get there 4 days. And I'd also rather them start with 4 days and recover and get punished in that 4 days than do 6 days of random shit.
Yeah, I do love when I get new clients, or so much in the past when they came on board and they're like, oh, like your program's only 4 days. You mind if you include a 5th? I'm like, get through the first week and train the way I want you to train on 4 days and let me know how you feel. And it's like, next check in. Yeah, no, you're right. I don't want a 5th day.
Let's start here. We'll stay here.
Yeah, just people really underestimate. They underestimate their own ability. That's where I think it is. They really underestimate how strong they are and how resilient they really are to and basically being able to push themselves. And
the soreness the body actually feels when you train that way too.
Yeah. It's just like, it's a whole new world of hurt, but it's fun.
Well, I guess that kind of ticks off what I just want to dabble about and talked a bit of shit on. So that was good.
Yeah.
Turns out to get SCAF reacting, you just have to start talking about training and training modalities.
That's literally just what I do, baby cakes. This is my world. This is what I do.
We have plenty of questions on training intensifiers, a bit of other fun shit. So, do you want to start with a serious one or a fun one?
Let's go fun, because I feel like that was a bit serious. Even though it was a bit more fun for me, but
how I get off is different to how everyone else gets off.
Pretty much. I'm sorry, but it's what I do.
Usually, there's a belt involved. There's a fan. Michael Hutchins is basically my name. It's no big deal.
I've got a mask, but whatever. It was one time, Ben. Don't tell everyone. Jesus. Came to you in confidence.
All right. You said you got a fair few funny ones in there. So what do we got?
Oh man, okay. This will be interesting.
Are these thought-provoking ones, or we got to pump them out and get through all of them?
Well, these are the fuck, marry, kill ones. So,
okay.
Okay. Let's see what we got. Just because I've got actually, like I said, I was surprised. I got so many in such a short time.
Guys, we do talk about serious things,
Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein, and Trump.
Oh, fucking hell. What is that?
Yeah.
I mean, Epstein, you just have to kill, right? Because, pedophile ring and all that jazz.
Yeah, fair.
Fair. Marry, Trump is definitely richer than Clinton.
Yeah, you think it along. But see, now he's getting it. He's starting to see people how much he's turned in the last fucking 4 episodes. He's starting to think these things through. Yeah, exactly.
Bill, you got to bang because that whole Monica Lewinsky thing, like, he's got something going on. He's got to be fun.
100%. Yeah, 100%. He's got some deep dark side. Like, yeah, he's got a pleasure room. 100%. Yeah.
In those caves under the White House that he built, there's definitely something in there that's fun.
100%. That's
I'm with you on the same page. I think we're on the same page there.
We have Susan Boyle, Caitlyn Jenner, and Kathy Bates.
God, I hate Kathy Bates.
Yeah, that'd be right. I think who doesn't hate Kathy Bates? Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a very similar thing. I think I'm going to marry Caitlyn Jenner purely because she's rich. Kathy Bates, I'm probably going to have to off.
Yeah,
and I'm going to have to fuck Susan in the dark.
Yeah. Just hope that her bed game is as good as her voice. I got a feeling it's not, but we can hope.
We can only pray. There's a couple of funny ones in this. Stallone, Arnie, and Bruce Willis, but all from the Expendables.
I just watched the Expendables. Good choice. I just watched the Expendables. Man, oof. I mean, their purposeful cheesy catchphrases fucking kill me, but it's on purpose, so it's funny. It's like they know the irony of doing it, so it's even funnier, but it's so bad.
I'm going with, I think Stallone's the healthiest of the lot. So I'm probably going to kill him. I feel like between Arnie and Bruce, who would be richer?
Oh, it's got to be Arnie.
You reckon?
Yeah. I mean, Arnie's built an empire.
But Bruce has made some movies.
Yeah, I know, but Nicolas Cage has made 150 movies. He's worth no money.
Yeah, but that's because he's also really bad with his money. Should we Google this?
Yeah, I want to find out. I reckon Arnie's richer. I mean, he built an empire before becoming Mr. California. So
let's see, Arnie.
He owns a Sherman tank, for Christ's sake. A functioning
I'm not
Sherman
disagreeing with you.
Have you seen that Man vs. Food episode where they cook an ostrich egg on his tank?
Oh, yeah, I have.
That's pretty funny. I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. Smoking a cigar, cooking an egg on a fucking tank.
So how have we got here? We've got Bruce Willis coming in at number 6? And Arnie at number 4. Well, there you go.
Does it say what actual net worth is?
Probably, if I go down and find it. Hold on. Bruce Willis is currently worth 180 mil.
That's not bad. That's
and
pretty
Arnie's worth between 300 and 400. Righto. Fair
difference. I'm right.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah. I'd marry Arnie, and you're definitely banging Die Hard.
Yeah. I guess that's what we got to do, bro. Got to take one for the team. We have last one I'll give it before we move into some more serious ones. Protein, carbs, and fats.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I thought that was an interesting one.
Yeah, but
I'd marry carbs.
Yeah.
I'd probably fuck protein and kill fat.
Yeah, but then also all my testosterone to work and everything to function properly.
Yeah,
kind of want fats up there, but
just take fucking test. Don't be a bitch.
Just go exogenous. Fuck it. Yeah, okay. 100%. Yeah, fair cop. If that's an option, then yeah, I agree.
It doesn't say that it's not. So
That's fair. Get rid of carbs. I mean, I've done dieting phases on don't cut down fats too low. I've done literally trace fats. Shut up. Fucking my body still functioned.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'd just kill fats off and marry carbs because I'm a wog, and fuck protein because it's protein.
Some people are just scared to fucking. I don't even start on, but pushing extremities is just fucking. You got to do that. It's wrong. Fuck. Why? Shut up. Someone's body needs a composition change, and it's got to be done. You either pull them out of the entire premise, or you do it. That's it. That's the options.
That's fair. Actually, I will give you one more because you'll enjoy this.
All right.
Vegeta, Goku, or Bardock?
I mean, Bardock is such a wasted character potential, but also
we don't know how good he could have been.
Yeah, I've seen what if canons where he potentially goes Super Saiyan and stuff, but does he reach the same tier as Goku? But then,
none of them are going to reach that same tier.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like.
But it's also it's writer determined, right? So like if he was to stay alive and they kept him in the storyline, would the writers just keep making him more and more powerful as like the potential character that's the one up from Goku because he's Goku's dad and there'll always be that rivalry. But
yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's the OG. I feel like I'd have to marry him.
But then you get to have like a training partner for life that's basically a god.
Yeah, but I mean that also probably gets redundant at some point because he's just going to be better than you the whole time. At least you have half a chance against Bardock.
Yeah, but I mean, then that becomes the premise of like, would you rather win? Would you rather win a race?
How do you measure progression? If you always
would you rather win a race against like absolute morons that have no chance, or would you rather come third or fourth in a race full of champions and you just continue to get better?
It depends what the prize is.
If it's dignity, I'm fucked anyway. So
yeah, I think I will.
You got to kill Vegeta because that's just pure anger. Like you never have a good time with him.
Yeah. No, killing Vegeta. I'll probably have a good time with him. Let's be real. We're both angry people. Yeah, I think I'd probably marry Bardock, kill Vegeta, fuck Goku. Just say I did. I feel like he'd just enjoy
it. Fair cop.
Yeah.
All right, I got a funny one. Would you rather lose all of your teeth forever or get kicked in the balls once a day forever?
Lose all my teeth forever. I mean, I don't have balls, so maybe the balls. Depends how hard are we talking?
I mean, even a tap hurts, and you have to anticipate that once a day. Eventually, that just becomes like anxiety.
I'm just thinking more along the lines of like, how much is that going to hurt in terms of like the whole, like prostate and shit like that. Like, what's the reoccurring? Like, what's the repercussions of being kicked in the balls every day?
Yeah, but also just don't want to have gums.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. I'd probably.
I'm gonna take the ball tap because
if it's a tap, I'll take the ball tap.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the ball tap because I can just keep shrinking those.
Yeah,
I want to have them for a while.
Like
clean those things.
Balls. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm taking the tap.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, let's go on some training ones.
Let's do it.
Okay, here's a good one. Is there an amount of volume you could do to make up for lack of intensity?
Yeah, all of it.
All of it, literally.
Pretty much. I mean, is there an amount of volume that makes up for a lack of intensity, depending on what's the goal? If the goal is to build hypertrophy, no.
Because if you're doing 20 sets of 10 kilo dumbbell presses, guys, and you're thinking that's still going to equate to intense volume, it's not.
No, you're just going to get really good at lifting 10 kilos.
10 kilos, yeah.
Yeah. It ends up becoming the skill. So yeah, no, there's no amount of actual, like, I'm talking about sub-maximal volume. When I say that, I don't mean obviously effective volume or effective reps and that sort of stuff. It's more so if you're working, under that sort of, let's say 70% of your best, or, you're outside your 4 RIR.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, you're not going to accrue enough volume to stimulate anything. You might get a little bit of growth, but it'll stall very fast.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Okay. What are cues that a deload might be required? Well, in my opinion, this is why tracking metrics is important when we start to, as your check-in list is that I've seen, and my check-in list, things like how does perceived recovery feel, stress levels, sleep, and obviously progression of lifts. If those things all start to either, if your stress signals and your perceived recovery goes up, if your perceived recovery is dropping and your stress level is going up and your lifts are coming down, or you're not progressing the way we want, generally that's a sign of probably good CNS fatigue and your body's generally fatigued and in dire need of a deload or back off.
Yeah, we'd look at also things depending on how specific you want to be, but basically quality of training. So if it starts to drop off, things start to feel heavier, like, when you get under a bar or you start picking an exercise that is your go-to and you're like, oh no, I'm in trouble here. Usually could be a sign of fatigue. And potentially a deload. We also look at things like Resting heart rate, if your resting heart rate climbs, if it's always, one steady sort of number or, between a bracket of numbers and it starts to escalate and it's escalated for a week or so, it's a good chance that we're probably starting to need a deload. Blood pressure as well is another thing. It does seem to climb the more fatigue we accumulate. And then associated with that is like lack of sleep or irritable sleep is a good one. Loss of appetite is a big one, especially if you're in a growth phase.
Yes.
That sort of stuff that we look at. We also look at, like we said, perceived recovery scores and stuff like that. So basically scores out of 10, how do you feel post-training or the next day? 10 meaning the training was probably too good or too easy. And then 1, you've been hit by a bus. So if we start to see that number sort of sub 5, sub 4 or sub 6, we're probably like, okay, probably needing a deload soon. Also progression over the week. So sometimes you just have a bad session and it happens.
Yeah.
So even when you feel great, it just sometimes doesn't click. And it's
just not there. Yeah.
But if you have 2 or 3 of those sessions in a row, like in terms of in that same week, so if you do push pull legs, for example, if all 3 sessions are not feeling great, then there's a good chance you'll probably be ready for a deload.
Yeah. I agree. Have you got any more fun ones, serious ones? What do you got?
I've got a few. Let's have a look.
All right. While you're lifting that one, do different rep ranges have benefits over others for hypertrophy? If you were to pick one, what would it be? Again, I think as we said earlier in the chat, 8 to 15 generally covers most people for hypertrophy. And
also really depends on who you follow. Like I know Paul Carter's a big advocate of just 6 to 8 reps. He works on this effective rep scheme where if you get to 8 reps and basically you're 1 to 2 reps shy of failure, you're going to always grow. It's kind of like, then he starts talking about the force velocity curve and it's kind of like, yeah, okay, like whatever. Get good at all rep ranges up to and including probably 15 to 20 reps and pretty good, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's just cover all.
Like just as a context across the last 5 years of 4 years training, we've had a multitude of different rep ranges and scales for specific reasons, like whether that rep range increases or goes up, sets grow up. But even across even in the same session, I have rep ranges that'll be from 8 to 12, 12 to 15, 15 to 20. It just varies depending on the muscle, what I'm trying to do and what we're trying to achieve out of it. Trying to force some more movement, and things like calves. My calves, we push through what do you call it, jump raises and stuff like that, where it's just literally forcing out extra volume at 5 to 6 sets, 20 reps, stuff like that. Let's just destroy them because they don't grow. My calves suck. So grow. So
exactly right. And like I said, different muscles will react to different protocols. It's just getting the right one for the right muscle, right? So I put up the question, what's the dumbest training tip you've been given?
Oh, yep.
And this was a bit of fun. My favorite one, I think, out of all these was feel the burn. And it's kind of like, I mean, that's an interesting one in that feeling burn sensation, I guess we'll equate that to, a working feeling, not necessarily a bad thing depending on the exercise. Will you feel the muscles you're targeting work in a majority of compound exercises? Probably not. Usually there's more than one muscle at play. That's why they're called compound exercises. Like a bench press, for example, it's not usually that the chest will give out or the anterior delt. If you're doing anterior delt, you're bench pressing wrong, please see someone. But it does happen. Usually it's the triceps that start to fatigue first against smaller muscle groups fatiguing before the major or the bigger ones. But then when we look at isolation work, for example, a leg extension, it's very rare that you do a leg extension and don't feel your quads. So again, the burn sensation not necessarily being a bad thing, but I think it's been used way too many times to justify probably a really shit exercise or, training paradigm.
Ironically, on the flip side of that too, in exercise psychology, in group training environments when coaches are that level of perceived shouting as opposed to direct consultation. So if you're in an environment where the coach is just on the bike saying like, feel the burn, come on, Susan, actually worse for what they're trying to achieve in group performance in terms of psychological behavior than if you to go up to that person and just sort of motivate them personally on their level. If you just simply go out and just shouting shit like that, it makes them feel like they're not doing enough. Yeah,
it's interesting. There are some of the standard ones here. I do have a really good one though from a mutual friend. So everything Ben tells me to do. I like that it took you a while to get on that one. But yes.
Wait, what?
Thank you. Shitty exercise tips. Everything Ben tells you to do is shitty. So,
yeah, I mean, learn what not to do then.
So I tell you the real bad stuff so you can work out the good things. In theory, exactly. I'm the best coach in the world.
To some degree, you're learning something.
I teach you independency. You're welcome.
Yeah. Welcome to autonomy and self-efficacy.
Don't deadlift because it makes your waist thick.
Oh, yes. My favorite.
This is always a funny one.
I mean, how's Chris Bumstead's waist look?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting in that there is a coach here in Australia that I will not name names.
Pussy.
That everyone probably knows as soon as I start talking about it. He went through a rant or a rampage of saying that bikini girls shouldn't deadlift because it increases their waist circumference. And it's like, yeah, okay. So if we look at this from a physiological standpoint, the whole bracing and that sort of thing expands your waist temporarily, and obviously using a belt then compresses it so that it creates an intra-abdominal pressure and creates a wall for you to brace against.
Yes. Almost like leverage, right?
Yeah. And there are muscles, I guess, like the obliques and, the erectors and stuff like that can be used or activated in a deadlift, we'll say, or an RDL. However, they don't usually grow out. It's very rare that they get thicker and actually grow out. They just tend to get more dense. It's an interesting thing. It's very hard to actually grow your waist. And actually it's really funny because Jordan Shallow put up the best story yesterday about it, saying he can't understand the fascination with every guy wanting a small waist. Obviously, in terms of bodybuilding, he's just having a bit of a joke and a laugh. And if you don't know who Dr. Jordan Shallow is, please follow him already. The Muscle Doc, because he's phenomenal. He basically said, I would want to look like a bear, and if I could get a waist thickener, I would.
Waist thickener.
If I could have my waist as thick as my shoulders, I'll be living the dream. And it's kind of like you this is coming from a dude who's like a master's in chiropractic and trained some of the best guys in the world and one of the smartest dudes in the world on this stuff, saying this. So it's like, you genuinely can't make your waist thicker. You can make the muscles grow and get more dense. It's very hard to actually make them get wider. And to say that I pulled 260 in my waist when I diet down looks like a girl. So whatever, as much as I don't like to use anecdote.
Yeah. I mean, the peak of our deadlift block, I was 5 sets of 4 for 220, and I still pulled my waist in to 27 inches when I cut down. So I think we're good.
Yeah, exactly right. It's kind of like, again, I don't like to use anecdote. It's really not ideal, but the research
supports the anecdote.
Well, it's not even that. There's no real research on do deadlifts make your waist thick, because no one cares.
Yeah,
not that I've actually seen. I mean, I can always have a quick look, I guess, but
it frustrates me when you have to sort of prove against even non-proven positions. So the burden of proof lies with the person making the claim, right? But for some reason, we get these positions or these statements or opinions that it's like you have to prove against. It's like, that's not how it works. There isn't evidence supporting that your deadlift is going to increase your waist size. So why am I having to prove to you that you're wrong?
Yeah, and the contraction that's going on at the oblique and the erectors and that sort of stuff in the concentric, and the eccentric, in terms of the actual time of the rep. If the rep is only 3 seconds and you're doing let's say 30 reps of that, you're not really doing fucking much work. Let's be fucking real. Because considering they're not the primary muscles being used. But I don't think there's actually any actual research that I can think of. I mean,
okay, similar question to what we had while you're looking for that, or what we were talking about before about active versus passive. Thoughts on explosive movement compared to time under tension for bodybuilding, and do you need both?
So this is an interesting one again. Time under tension, I guess, was a good thing. It really depends on how much time. So I guess this comes down to almost like speed of rep. And when we say under tension, are we meaning both eccentrically and concentrically, or are we meaning just eccentrically? Because a lot of the time people talk about time under tension, they do mean usually the eccentric speed.
Eccentric, yeah.
So we need, And we need a period of time under the under load eccentrically to recruit as many units of force per fiber. So it doesn't recruit more fiber. That's the concentric and the explosiveness of the concentric. But what happens is you generate force on the way down. If you think about like a spring, for example, if you start to squeeze that spring down, and then you sort of let it go and it springs back up into its normal sort of, I guess, shape, that force that you're generating on the way down will allow you then to concentrically, push as much or as fast as possible with as much explosiveness as possible and recruit as many fibers as possible. Why we say treat your warm-ups like your working sets. It's kind of like everything's sort of the same in that, same eccentric speed down. Now, if you just drop, usually you will use what we call the stretch shortening cycle. Basically, the muscle uses elastic energy, not so much ATP, and it does use ATP, but it doesn't use actual muscular energy, or the energy we're trying to use to target the muscle at hand is probably a better way to say that. Versus using just a little trick that we can manipulate our anatomy with.
Yeah, very fair point. And no, I agree. This is your realm and domain.
I get excited.
What are signs of muscle recruitment you should look for?
Start that question again.
What are common signs of muscle recruitment you should look for? So I guess like when you're as a trainer, as the client, you're actively going through a movement, or I guess or someone doing an exercise, you're actively going through it. What are the signs of the correct muscle recruitment you should look for?
It's a very interesting question. You can't really look for muscle recruitment. It's not a thing. Like, you have to be hooked up to a ton of machines. Effectively, in your warm-up sets, if you're moving through, I guess, the progressions of your sets and your warm-ups, and basically everything's feeling good and still moving well, it's probably one indicator that, you're potentially recruiting, I guess, muscle. It's an interesting one. Like, the only way my head thinks you have to be hooked up to actually see the amount of fiber that you're recruiting, right, per set, per warm-up, and so on and so forth. Subjectively, I mean, a warm-up's feeling good's always the good one, but that also correlates to a whole stack of other things. I mean, I guess a top set, or like, your first working set, is probably a good indication of where you're at. Sometimes if it moves really, really well, you're like, oh, fuck, like I'm on today. That's kind of like a potential maybe gauge of that you're, firing on all cylinders type scenario. And sometimes, you get to that first set and you're like, oh shit, like that felt way shitter than I thought. And then you get to your second set and you're like, okay, here we go. Again, could be more mental than anything, but also could be, I guess, a little physiological sign that maybe the fibers you've recruited from the first set have now carried over to your second set. It's a tricky question in that I don't think there's really a tell.
I guess the other side of that would be rather than looking for signs of the correct muscle recruitment, if you were feeling it in the incorrect places. So perhaps
probably a good way to look at it. Yeah.
If you're feeling like you're going for a bench press and you're feeling it in your lateral or like more anterior delt, like you're saying, probably an indicator that your form either needs to tweak before you increase weight, or you need to warm up a bit more effectively because you're not recruiting properly. If you're going to do, I don't know, a fucking leg press and you're feeling a lot more in your glutes or something like that, chances are you're not positioned into the bench properly and you're probably recruiting incorrectly. Yeah,
it's interesting. I'd say maybe a pump could help in terms of indication on maybe isolation exercises like a bicep curl, leg extension and stuff. But at the same time, I don't know if that would actually tell you if you're recruiting actual fibers versus just using what you have currently, activated. So, I mean, it is what it is, man. Just one of those things.
Yeah, fair. Mate, that's all I've got.
All right. I've got some other ones, which is interesting. Overheard ladies' locker room, don't lift over 3 kilo dumbbells or you'll get bulky.
Shut the fuck up.
Apparently this is the true thing.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like...
Even like Gal Gadot and ScarJo hit weights for their roles in Marvel movies and DC movies. How do they look? And if you want my personal answer, I probably get kicked off the station. So we know what happens there.
Yeah, like lifting more than 3 kilos. It's like, what if you weigh 150 kilos?
No, bro, don't do it. Don't do it.
But then if you weigh 50 kilos, then like what happens? You know what I mean? It's like, why is that an arbitrary number? Like 3 kilo dumbbells, like you can lift.
That's why I don't like preset numbers for people like perception, personal metrics, personal arbitrary numbers, like setting preconceived numbers on things or limitations just fucking drive me insane. This person can't go over 80 carbs or 100 carbs, or this person can't go over this weight to lift. What do you fucking mean?
Man. Another funny one was creatine with pre-workout makes your muscles sore after you work out.
What?
Like, yeah, I'm kind of like, you do realize they make pre-workouts with creatine in them, right?
Yeah.
Like they're pre-made with creatine in them. So
a bit of a space waster, but yes, they do.
Yeah, that I agree with, but it's just like, like that's actually a thing. Like, I don't understand why that would make your muscle sore. Like,
take creatine, people, but take it separate from your pre-workout. But also that's full of shit. That whole thing just ended up, that's not a thing. Definitely not a thing.
Not in the slightest.
No, but saying that, don't get pre-workouts that are completely loaded with creatine first as one of their first ingredient selections. It's a waste of space. It costs you $20 and you can get like a year's worth to add yourself. Have a pre-workout that's got actually dosed ingredients and other things to get benefits from.
Exactly. Like cocaine. No, don't do that.
Cocaine and creatine, which is what most prison gets.
70 reps in one set arm workout to break the plateau.
Fuck.
I mean, can you imagine how light that weight would have been to do 70
that's just
reps?
like, is that just a continual drop set from the top of the stack down? Like, is that?
No, just a 70 reps in one set arm workout to break the plateau.
I mean, it just sounds like Rich Piana's 8-hour workout.
Yeah, but I feel like he's made even more sense, at least, because he was still training like close-ish to failure from memory. I have to watch that again. It's been a while.
I mean, he had food breaks in there as well.
Yeah, he took his whole meal bag to the gym, just chilling out in between sets.
Yeah.
It's like, what up? Every half an hour, I'm going to do some bicep curls. And it's just like, cool, man. You do you, boo. What else do we have? There was another one here. Don't push yourself because you want to get, don't push yourself is how I should have started that, man. Anyway, don't push yourself because you want to be toned, not big.
That classic chestnut.
And
I want to get toned. I don't want to get bulky and big. So I've got to work in the 20 to 25 rep ranges.
Yeah, some people have some interesting.
I only do accessories, not compounds.
Yeah, when I think about it, I'm like, when I think back to my sort of experiences being in the gym, working with like PTs and stuff, and, you know, short of working with Mr. Poliquin fanatic. So, you know, that interesting biosig bullshit. Yeah, like I haven't really had any bad experiences from other coaches. Like that wasn't even a bad experience. Like, you know, I had really good training sessions. I actually got really good results. So it's like, I can't really complain. But at the same time, like I've never had a PT that's ever given me bad advice. In saying that, I guess, I mean, I was a PT from like 19 and I'm 32 now, nearly 33. So I've been doing this for a while. Yeah. Never mind my, formal education as well. But it's kind of like, I don't know. It's interesting in that. Now I think back, I'm like, I've probably had more coaches in like sports, like actual sporting coaches like footy and soccer and stuff say more stupid shit than I have, heard in a gym.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like I find, especially, we went through this with sports psychology as well, exercise psych is a lot of coaches, when you think about it, are just family dads or mums or what have you that have the spare time that want to be a part of the team or help out or may have a background in a little bit of coaching, but it's never physiology coaching. It's never like actual performance coaching. It's just simply like a team coaching certification that came from doing like a 2-day course on the weekend. And so their knowledge is just anecdotal personal opinions and like, this is how we did it when we were kids. And that's why you get a lot of the like cut 2 laps before you start and do this sprints and do this shit. And we know it's all crap when it actually comes to team periodization and programming, but it's generally just like you're getting dads or bros who are in charge of a team and you're just going to be hearing silly shit in there. We were lucky in high school. Our school actually had a program developed for rugby league where we had people like S&C coaches come in from the Broncos and stuff who would run us through how we're supposed to train at least or give us a general program. So, we had, even in a basic sense, though most people probably got the same program, it was generally like try and increase your lift, do these rep ranges, the typical like 3 sets of 10 after you built up to it and hit like a overload each week kind of thing. So although it wasn't specific information, there was at least a decent basis to build off knowledge from.
Yeah. It makes complete sense.
As opposed to, I guess, like those coaches you kind of get on the weekend who are just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Cut 20 laps and we're going to do cardio. Cool, bro. We're playing teams that weigh 120 kilos each and we're not doing strength work or power work. Cool.
Yeah, right. People are fucking, yeah. I don't know. That's what I say. Like PTs and stuff. Like, I don't know if there's, I imagine there's still people that say stupid shit. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, there are. Yeah, there are definitely plenty.
I just don't seem to come across them, to be honest. It'd be kind of funny if I did. Just be like, hey, man, they're all so wrong. And this is why. Like, it'd just be fun. It'd just be fun to see, right? But anyway, I'm trying to see if I can find any deadlift stuff, but I don't think I can.
We need a Jamie. If anyone wants to be our Jamie, please put your hand up.
No, I found one. I'm just trying to read the results. Torso. No, so there's no significant change in torso thickness at all. Correlations between absolute maximal strength in the squat and body weight and torso 6.1 total kilograms of body weight by both groups. So maximal strength movements taller and heavier, has a heavier BMI, body fat percentage, also greater hip waist, and torso see longer arms. Greater squat regardless of body weight generally presented a higher body weight. So the people already had thicker waist, so it doesn't really count for that. It doesn't really say much. So no, our results indicate that a bigger, wider, and thicker individual is at greater advantage in squat, bench, and deadlift. Like, no shit. Anyway. Yeah, no, it doesn't seem like there's really anything that shows much. That study was released last year, and then there's an anthropometrical determinant of a deadlift performance. So I wouldn't say anything. It'd just probably say something along the lines of, if you have a thick waist, you probably are better at deadlifting, more so than deadlifting makes your waist thicker. Anyway, maybe something I'll look into if I can be bothered and have time.
Which is a no.
Nah, I'm fucking flat out, but whatever.
That's all I got, dude. We'll go through questions.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a couple other ones in there, but we can always save them. Been going for what, an hour and a half again, as usual?
Yeah. Yep. It's pretty good. Bang on.
Yeah.
Anything else to finish off with? What do you got going on? Anything exciting?
Yeah. Trying to finish this freaking seminar I'm supposed to be doing for biomechanics. I'm supposed to actually do tomorrow, which I hopefully can finish tonight if I get a chance. But since moving house, when you move, everything that can go wrong goes wrong. It's one of those things. It's just like shit needs to be cleaned. Electricity's fucking shit, like all these little problems. And it's kind of like, fuck, man. Trying to get this shit sorted. Anyway, we'll see how we go. See if I can get a chance to actually finish it and present tomorrow. I feel bad for my guys. Just every time I keep like postponing, I'm like, sorry, man, it's another week. Like, sorry, guys, it's another week. I'm like, fuck. I'm at the point where I might just give them a refund, but we'll see. I might just try and knock it out, and hopefully they don't do anything tomorrow so that I can actually get it to them.
Fair. Joys of life.
Yeah, I've got a really cool podcast coming out on my Elite Strength podcast with Aaron Chacon. He's got a PhD in pharmacology, effectively.
Oh, wow, that'd be fun.
For those that listen to this that don't listen to my other one, especially if you're on gear, you definitely want to listen to that one coming out on Saturday morning. Just saying. It's literally got to do with blood pressure, lipid profiles, and blood glucose. He works in a lab that deals with androgens. Effectively, they just basically give rats as many steroids as they can and measure what happens.
Can I be that rat?
Yeah. I mean, he said rat. He didn't say if it was like, like
I'm a
rat.
Gym rat.
Yeah, gym rat or just a rat. But we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, he's a really smart dude, so that'd be fun. That's about it going on with me, man. Oh, I need a holiday. I'm fucking cooked. It's really funny talking to my dad. My dad's like, didn't you go on holiday like in April? I'm like, yeah, because of my pancreas issues. And he's like, and what you're saying you need another holiday? I'm like, Dad, I deal with hundreds of people a week, like online. I'm like, I know you don't understand the concept of online coaching, but like, when I lock myself in my room and I don't come out for 5 hours, 6 hours at a time, it's because I'm doing this thing called work.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, man.
Interesting time how like imagine trying to tell that to like a year-old man 20 or 30 years ago before like the internet became big and this became a whole realm. Like they'd just been like, what are you talking about? You're working with people that you don't see? What?
Yeah, exactly right.
Why is that tiring?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, but it is.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Not wrong at all. But it's just fucking like, man, keep up with the ages, please.
Anyway, guys, thank you
Much
for tuning in. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty good. As I said at the start of the episode, like things are moving. And if you are listening and you are on the fence of coaching and things like that, definitely reach out because spots are open. I'm taking people. I'm definitely getting working. I'm getting through it. It's been an interesting process to start, but I'm more than happy to work with a lot of people.
Yes. Work with Ben. I'm full.
Go that way.
Yeah, literally. If you come to me, there's a good chance I'm going to be like, go to bed. So
I'm the scaffy that your mum says has a home.
it's only because he's got a mustache and I got a full beard. He's trying.
It's the facial hair your mum says she has a home.
She has a home. Yeah, literally.
Not a full beard, just a mustache.
No, it's exactly fucking right. It's half.
Anyway. But yeah, no, thank you for listening, tuning in and joining us this week. Obviously, we're reaching some decent numbers now. So everyone, thank you for tuning in and giving us your time.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and we will catch you next week. If you do have any topics you want us to discuss, please DM one of us or throw it up in one of the question boxes when we pop them up. I'm happy to talk about basically anything. But yeah, that's about it from me.
Sweet. Catch you next week, guys.